Hey, welcome to Guitar Knobs, the guitars, gear, noise, and nonsense podcast, hosted today by these knobs.
Hey, how you doing? This is Todd. Listen, before we start the show, I want to officially announce how you can win the Echo Park FQ12 Dual Range Bastard Treble Boost guitar pedal. This is the one that's hand-built and hand-signed by Gabriel Curie, founder of Echo Park Guitars himself. All right, this is a limited run pedal. So listen, all you have to do to win this killer pedal is send me an email. Send it to todd@theguitarknobs.com. I need two things in that email. Number one, your subject line must read Range 18. That is Range 18. RANGE 18. In the body copy, I need you to put your first and last name. I also need you to put where you are sending it from, your city, your state, and or your country. All right? Give me those three things and you can win this pedal. That's subject line, Range 18, first name, last name, and where you're sending it from. All right? Good luck to everybody. We'll announce the winners in a couple weeks. More to come on this. And without further ado, I bring you the Guitar Knobs podcast.
Jared Brandon One Pickups.
Tony Dudzik, Pick Guardian.
Hey, it's me, Todd Novak. We are super happy you are with us, listening to our little podcast called The Guitar Knobs. The three of us are in our studio in Columbus, Ohio, joined by a couple of other fellow knobs that are going to the guitar show with us.
We'll call them vagabonds.
Vaganobs. That sounds weird.
That sounds very weird.
That sounds dirty, actually. But alongside of these clowns, we've got somebody super duper special calling from super far away.
That's you.
It's Alex from Zander Circuitry.
Alex from Zander Circuitry, located in
Benfleet in Essex in the UK.
Benfleet and Essex in the UK.
Over the pond?
Yes,
indeed. Pond. So we were lucky enough to receive a box full of Zander pedals, and that was a real treat to play with. For those of you who are not familiar, if you're listening and not driving, you can go to zandercircuitry.co.uk and see all of the things we're going to be talking about. He makes some really incredible pedals, and they are chock full of features. Very, very robust pedals. I shouldn't say I was surprised, because that would mean that like I doubted. But sometimes
I was expecting these to be awful.
The guests. They weren't nearly as awful as I thought they'd be.
You pleasantly discovered their.
I pleasantly discovered
uniqueness.
the uniqueness. That's right.
Oh, thank you. It was that's a good save.
Thank you. Very well made, very well thought out. We're going to get into all that business pretty soon. But in the meantime, we want to give a special shout out to Rode Microphones for supplying our awesome equipment that we're recording on. We are very grateful for their help with our podcast. And we also want to say thank you so much to all of our Patreon patrons. We'll get into that a little bit later, but honestly, at every level, we're so thankful for your help. It matters greatly. And just a quick little plug, so we don't, backload that too much. I did put up recently a new tier. You've probably heard me mention this at least one other time on a podcast now. But we have new Guitar Knobs Orange anodized barefoot buttons with our logo on it. But anyways, that's for our $5 and up patron membership. The barefoot buttons, the foot switch buttons, so you can step on it with your tender toes, or make high visibility for dark shows. Help distinguish between all the. Because if you're sitting there playing and you're looking down, you go like, I gotta reach over in the middle of my thing, and I gotta manage to hit this and not smash all my other knobs and move stuff around. Makes for a nice big target. Anyway, so those are cool. Check out patreon.com/the guitar knobs, and you'll even learn how to find out how even more. Okay, gentle folk across from me. Tony, go. What happened in your world this week?
This week? Well,
Yeah.
it just seems like a couple of days ago.
I know.
But now it's a whole week later.
I know.
That's right.
It's amazing. Well, if you let's see, a couple of weeks back, I think we were talking about. I got my Pink Floyd book, every song, every instrument, all that fun stuff. So I've made it through, good 3/4 of the book. So I'm on this Pink Floyd kick these days, and thanks to Spotify at the shop, I have been going through all of the Pink Floyd albums, and then I kind of refer to the little book just to see, all the various noises and things that the Floyd was doing way back in the day when Sid was still there. And I'm about, I would say, 5 albums deep into the old stuff now. So we're starting to get into, I don't think it's quite to Dark Side of the Moon yet, but it's really cool. Again, that book, it's really entertaining. And some of the backstories, some of the side stories, some very interesting connections. So that's kind of been my week. In addition to taking large pieces of plastic and making them into smaller pieces of plastic.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, Alex, if you ever have some crazy ideas for pick guards and stuff, Tony's your man.
I know a guy.
Nice.
Yeah.
I know a guy.
He made me some killer speedboat gold sparkle ones for a couple of mine and a couple other things. So anyways, sorry, making a little plug for Tony there. Hey, Alex, what's going on in your music world this week, bud?
Absolutely nothing's happened this week.
That every single guest that we have says that exact same thing.
And they go on for 15 minutes about absolutely nothing.
I think, when initially when we were going to record this the first time round, the night before, I went to see Dinosaur Jr. in Camden, and that was amazing, and that was going to be the thing I was going to talk to you guys about. So yeah, that was that's probably the most recent.
Tell us about it. We'll pretend that it happened when it was supposed to.
Yeah, so that's probably the most recent, I guess, music related thing. It was at the Roundhouse in Camden. It was actually meant to be in December last year, but they cancelled it on the day because Jay had a throat infection or something like that. And then about 6 weeks prior to this, Lou, the bassist, broke his collarbone. So it was like, oh, great. Are they going to cancel it again? Because they moved it for 4 months.
Podcast.
Luckily, I think he got the all clear to play. But yeah, it's the second time I've seen them live. They're one of my favourite bands, and I learned from my mistakes the first time round, and I did take some earplugs this time because I don't know if you guys know about Chain Massacres playing in front of 400-watt Marshall with 2 4x12s under each of them, and he just slams the front end with a big muff that's completely dimed. It's unbelievably loud. It came out of the first time we saw him a couple of years ago. Absolutely deafened by the end of it, so I made sure to take earplugs this time just to take that high end out. But it was amazing. It was such a great gig.
Awesome. Yeah, I had the pleasure to see them. I didn't even know who they were, but they opened up for Jane's Addiction back in 1988. I think 88.
Oh yeah, that would have been one of when they first
came out.
Yeah.
Meat Puppets and Jane's Addiction in this little tiny theater in Hollywood, man.
Oh,
it was
nice,
awesome.
nice.
And loud. So that's cool. I love hearing about shows and stuff, and I'm sure you are one of those people that if you're able to get close enough to the stage, it would be really interesting to see a photo from the stage of people who are close to the stage and who's looking up at the players and who's looking down at the pedals.
See, part of me thought about. Part of me wanted to be like, maybe I'll, because it's one of my favorite guitarists. I thought maybe I'll take one and just I'll give it to him, whatever. But then I thought, maybe if I take a box that's got switches on it and I try throwing it in a music venue, I might get. It's a very quick way to get done in or arrested.
Bad idea these days.
Yeah. But you know what? I mean, honestly, that's really not a bad idea if you connect with the management company ahead of time. because they're always looking for help and endorsements and like connections and stuff like that. So for those pedal builders out there, if you want to get them to your favorite players, try. Just don't bring a box of circuitry to a show. It's not.
You got to learn who the guitar techs are too. That's a big part of it.
Or you can send them all to Todd first.
Send them to me.
He'll make sure they get there.
Yeah. I mean, I can't vouch if what happens after the guitar tech gets it, but Jared.
All right, a couple of things. First, I bought that Gibson Les Paul, the roached out one. The natural color that just turned nicotine color. I mean, just a gnarly looking guitar.
So that was
orangey.
Did you do something new with it?
Yes, I did.
Oh, great.
So Zach was over and we were working or whatever, and then I said, let's change those pots out. So I got some really high quality potentiometers, and they're long shaft, by the way, because it is a 1979. And I took the original harness out. I left the original switch in with the wires and all that kind of thing, and the jack, and I had Zach wiring me up the harness, and I got to tell you, man, Zach's like, hey, these are what 300K, right, Zach? 300K pots that came with that guitar, and it sounded dark. It just sounded dark before, and when we put that new harness in with 500K, it was night and day. It was amazing. You could hear the clarity, and there was more dynamics. There was a lot more brightness. It was just a lot more clear. It's an amazing change.
So is there a moral to the story for those who might be considering doing something like that?
Absolutely.
$250K for single coil pickups, $500K for humbuckings.
All right. And we're going to, that's a great segue, because one of the shows that I'm really excited about, we're going to be doing a wiring 101 for all you guys out there with Mojo Tone.
I can't wait for that.
Super excited about that.
Yep.
So we're going to learn all about your guitar wiring, potentiometers, pickups, how that connections, all that business.
And speaking of pickups, I'm really excited about a new book coming out. It's called PAF Humbucking Pickup from Myth to Reality. And I know one of the gentlemen who helped write the book, and it's James Finnerty and Mario Milan. I cannot wait to read that book.
Which one do you know?
I know James.
Hi, James.
And he's a pickup maker. So
awesome.
But anyway, I cannot wait for that. And
I was going to say, Jared, I've noticed your activity on Instagram this past week or so.
He's stepping it up.
He is really stepping up.
He's got to step it up.
One picture a day.
What's your Instagram account?
Just look up Brandon Wound.
Brandon Wound pickups. Brandon Wound pickups. I'll show up.
I just pushed the thing on my phone.
The only Brandon Wound pickups there is.
Yeah.
So that's cool.
Yep.
And you've been getting some good comments on this too.
Thanks for noticing.
Good job.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I have been. So my birthday was yesterday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
I milk it for the weekend, of course.
Do it for the month.
So my girls got me. I got my girls got me a bunch of stuff that they just wanted. So that's I got a unicorn tape dispenser.
At least you know they're normal.
And a sushi roll, like a pastel sushi roll journal thing.
Tell us more about the unicorn tape dispenser.
Yeah, it dispenses rainbow tape out of its butt. So I'm like, awesome. You guys just bought me stuff that you want, but that's fine.
Yeah.
So I'm using that in the studio right now. I'm appreciative of that. But more importantly, I got a new strap for the new guitar that I'm building and a set of strap locks.
Yay.
And, as often happens when you put stuff on Amazon, you get, I'm from,
like me.
It's in Louisiana now. I got duplicates. So I got another set of strap locks. So I think I'm going to throw those on the old Gibson Explorer that I got.
Nice.
So I can actually play it and not be worried about it.
So the lesson you should learn when it comes time for your kids and wife's birthday:
Always use strap locks. That's the lesson.
buy guitar-related things.
Buy guitar-related things
For them.
right.
For them. Yes.
For you.
Oh yeah, exactly. Jeez, I didn't even think of that. Hey, honey,
I got this lovely Les Paul book.
yeah, you're gonna love it. Exactly. Cool. Well, that was a super fun time. Oh, look out!
1, 2, 3. 4 on the floor.
All right, Alex, give us your 4 on the floor.
Okay, so the first one is the Raygun Effects Dual Soda Drive.
Yes.
They are a company in Southend, which is about 15 miles away from me. I know the guy that runs it quite well. I've known him for a while. At one point, I did have an entire board just of his pedals.
Wow.
But yeah, he makes some amazing, especially kind of fuzzes and stuff like that. But the dual soda drive, it's a hard one to explain, but it's kind of like, basically it's 2 of the same pedals in one. He has just a single pedal called the soda drive. So this is just 2 in series. It's kind of like a weird mix between a tube screamer and a rat. So it's kind of like a really high gain tube screamer-ish kind of sound.
Okay.
But it's kind of, but I think the new one's got this kind of 3-way toggle on it that changes the clipping diodes, I assume. So you kind of get that mix between, you can have it one set to an overdrive and then one set to the kind of fuzzy sound. So yeah, it's just an amazing pedal. I had it a little while ago, and yeah, I love it.
And it's cool that you know the person who built it. That's even more special.
Yes. No, Steve's a great guy. He's in a local band as well that I go and see quite often. So yeah, no, I've known him for a while. Yeah, he's an awesome guy.
Nice. Maybe we should. Raygun's not a. I don't think that is a super well known. Watch, everybody's gonna be like, I know what it is. And,
I think the one
totally run across that.
I think we had a president here in the U.S. named that.
Ronald Reagan, right? Funny name, Reagan.
It's terrible. Okay,
I think
Right up
the
there
one
with Thatcher pedals.
I think the one pedal that people know him for is he built a 2-knob fuzz into a Game Boy, like an old Game Boy Color, called the Super Fuzz Boy.
Okay.
So I think he basically buys these empty Game Boy shells and then builds
I've seen it.
It's a fuzz with a volume and a gain control, and then when you hit the foot switch, which is where I think the start button normally is, or where the whatever you call it, the control arrow buttons are, it lights up the screen with an LED.
Nice.
It's really cool.
I've seen that on Instagram, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's
cool.
people I think people when he brought that out, I think people went absolutely mad for him, because it's just, again, it's one of those things. It's unusual, isn't it? So
Yeah. It's also one of those things that when you put something out that already has an attachment to another brand, it's really easy for your brand to get lost in. Like if someone said, hey, who did the Game Boy things? You'd be like,
Nintendo.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. What do you have for number 2?
Number 2 is the Caroline guitar company Meteor. I've heard it pronounced a couple of different ways. Yeah. It's a kind of, I think they call it the lo-fi reverb. It's just it's a really cool, like it says, lo-fi reverb kind of sound, like kind of whole springy sound, and it's got like a foot switch that lets it ring out in this kind of dissonant kind of feedback like you get from an old delay kind of way. It's just
Cool.
it's really cool.
How do you personally use that?
I tend to use reverbs in the kind of, I guess, the kind of traditional way that one might use it. I've getting a lot of fun out of just kind of sitting with a clean sound and just kind of really kind of drenching it in reverb and just letting that sound ring out. But the switch, I can't remember what they call it, but the little momentary switch they've got on it just lets it ring out and feed back like an old delay would in this kind of, it's weird because it's not a particularly musical sound. It almost gets kind of dissonant and quite ringy, if you like. But it's quite a nice thing to just step on as a momentary thing. It's really cool.
It's interesting because back in the before they had those and that before that was an effect, if you accidentally hit that with your foot, instantly everybody knew something was wrong, and then you're sitting there, you reach down and you're trying to fiddle it back or something.
Yeah.
I used to have an old DOD delay, and it would just start going. But now it's like, oh yeah, man, that's awesome.
So basically, you showcase the reverb at times instead of just having it barely on.
Yeah.
Cool. What do you got for number 3?
Number 3 is the fairly new DoD rubberneck delay. It's their new analog delay. It's really cool. So it's an actual analog bucket brigade delay. But it's an actual analog delay. But I think it's got it's extra features like tap tempo. It has a feature that's actually called rubberneck, and I can't remember exactly what that does. I think it does something to the speed. But the thing that for me that was really the main thing that I really liked about it is it's got a send and return for the wet signal, and I think in their promo video they put one of their flanges in it or something like that, and it opens it up completely to basically you can make the delay anything you want, because you can put whatever effects you want that are only affected in the wet signal. So your dry signal stays the same, and that for me was a huge thing.
That's very interesting. So it looks like the rubberneck controls like the rate. Is that? Yeah,
it does something like that. I think it lets you shift. I think it momentarily shifts the rate and then it goes back down. That part I'm not overly familiar with.
I'm going to see if I can just elaborate on here. Let's see. The effect LED rubberneck rate control. Transparent pot utilizes a bicolor LED beneath to indicate different delay operating states. When it is green, let's see. That's just kind of talking about the when the rubbernecking feature is active, the pot itself is used for selecting the rubberneck rate, time it takes to modify the delay time when the effect foot switch is pressed. So yeah, it's just sort of like if you hit that, it kind of plays with how quickly the delay is engaged.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool. We'll call it
a
chaos switch.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, a chaos switch. So that's really interesting. I'm going to check that out.
Yeah,
I really like the design of that. I mean, as plain as some people might see,
it's going back to their old DoD's old look, isn't it?
It definitely looks.
It looks like late '70s, early '80s stereo type design.
Some people have made the joke. Over back in England, we have a supermarket called Tesco, and a lot of people have made the joke that it looks like their value range of food products.
Yeah,
right. It's pretty cool.
So that one's actually pretty. So DoD pedals in the past have not necessarily been complex. They've been pretty straightforward pedals for the most part. But this one is pretty chock full. It seems like it's definitely trying to compete with a lot of the boutique brands that are loaded with delay features. This one's got time knob, repeats knob, levels knob, a gain tone knob, a tails switch that would control how this thing is delaying out, tempo and regeneration switch, rubberneck switch, and tap ratio switch.
It's really cool.
And the rate and depth knob. So this thing's loaded.
Is there a fuzz switch on there too?
There's not, but there's a gain and tone. So you could. I mean,
so the gain kind of overloads the bucket brigade chip, so it distorts it only distorts cool. the delayed signal. But I think again, it's like that whole kind of analog circuit with digital stuff controlling it. It's really cool.
Cool. So what do you got for number 4?
The fourth one is probably the weirdest one. I don't know how to pronounce this. It's the Hex Melusine. The company is Hex, Hexe. And the pedal is called the Melusine, Melusine. And I can only describe it as a vinyl record simulator, I guess you'd call it. It's like a weird vibrato.
Melusine 2 or 3? I
didn't even know there was more than one. It's like a mauve purpley color with like a swirly eye on it.
It looks like
yeah.
the 3.
Yeah, it probably is the third one. Yeah.
Okay.
It's
Tell us all about
it's like a weird vibrato pedal that you can then, it has like a noise control and a filter control that you can then add in like the dust scratches you'd get on an old vinyl record. Yeah, no, it's so cool. And I think it's got like a weird filter control in, so I think I'm assuming it's just some kind of high pass filter that basically lets you make your, like you've recorded your guitar onto vinyl, and then you're now playing it back through like a...
Chase Bliss has one out.
An FM
like
signal,
right now.
like a small radio.
I listen to vinyl all the time, man. This is really cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. I mean, I've been listening to a lot of like, aside from like the normal music I listen to, I've been listening on Spotify, especially when I'm working, just to a lot of that kind of lo-fi hip hop stuff they call it, where it's basically just instrumental music where it's like a low beat with like some weird lo-fi guitar in it, and it basically it's that sound in a pedal. It's really cool.
Nice. Are you super familiar with the Hex brand, or?
I happened to just stumble upon it when I was looking up. So it basically uses a chip that I'm looking at using in some stuff going forward. It's basically a digital chip that you can program in, and I happened to just stumble upon that pedal, and I was like, this is like the exact thing that I've just been obsessed with, kind of lo-fi sounds.
Yeah.
And I just happened to stumble upon it.
They've got a pretty interesting range of pedals, and they're not afraid to use knobs.
I know, man.
Yeah.
Looks like a
yeah,
typewriter.
I've seen some of the other stuff.
I think they've got one called the Space-Time Resonator, which I have heard of before. That has 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 knobs and two toggle switches and three foot buttons.
That's a typewriter. Crazy.
Anyways, that's cool. Yeah, that's 4 cool pedals.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, right on. We are going to mosey on into the reason that we're talking to you, which is the interview portion of our little show here. And for those who are new to us, welcome. I just want to call out really quick that our show focuses on boutique builders of guitar stuff. Guitars, pedals, amps, and other kind of gear-related type things, and also professionals associated with those. So
even
Zander
strings.
Circuitry falls totally into that bucket. You're just a guy and I think a girl.
Yes.
Making awesome gear out of your little place, and I've never been there. That's not like a,
It's absolutely enormous. No, I'm joking. It's an old British mansion. Yeah.
Anyway, so that's the kind of people that we focus on, and that's why we're talking to Alex from Zander Circuitry today. I caught a wind of him on Instagram and started to look in a little bit deeper, and then we started having a conversation. And then a big giant box of pedals arrived, and I had a lot of fun. I didn't know what to expect. It's sometimes when you just hear gear demos, you can make a good assumption, but so much of what you like out of a pedal goes beyond just the actual, audio that you might hear. And I realized that at the end of the day, purists, Jared would say something along the lines of like, it doesn't matter what it does or looks like or feels or touches or it just matters what it sounds like. Yes and no. Let's talk about your pedals. I'll give everybody kind of just a brief setup. These are pedals that have an awful lot going on in them, but not too much. It's a great balance of full toolbox to play with, but not so much so that it's paralyzing. For me personally, sometimes pedals that have just too many functions or like multiple hidden functions, it's at a certain point I'm like, man, I just don't have the capacity to deal with that. It's fun to play with, but I also look at things as the person who's enjoying the gear, the person who's just playing with it in my living room, and also like, okay, can I use this feasibly in a show without having to play doctor with it. And one of the things that I love, that I've mentioned a couple times as of recently, is like, you like the rotary buttons too.
I do indeed.
Yes. And I was really excited to, in a very small footprint. I mean, you have like almost several pedals in a box with many of these.
Yeah, that was kind of the idea with a few of them. And there's a couple of others that made their way over to other guys in the UK that follow. There's a pattern with everything I do. Basically, is like trying to get as much out of the pedal as I can, but still make it practical for people to use. Yeah.
Well, it's clear that it's not that you're not making arbitrary decisions. I mean, sometimes arbitrary can be really fun, but you definitely have figured out like, hey, this is a thing that I can kind of roll with, and you're applying that methodology across your pedals, it seems like. But I want to get in deeper to your pedals in a little bit. I want to find out a little bit about like, how you got into all this. So where did you get hip to guitar stuff?
So the first kind of pedal that I started making was just a simple feedback looper. So it was basically a true bypass looper that had a momentary switch on it that you'd basically loop your entire pedal board in the send and return, and you just step on this momentary switch and it would feed the signal back in on itself, and it would basically just make these weird drones and oscillations. It was a completely passive circuit, but I basically just started making a few of them, and I sold them on Facebook groups and stuff like that, and then I kind of moved on to just kind of single knob fuzzes and things like that, and cloning old, whatever it'd be, like an Astrotone fuzz or something like that.
Right.
And then it just started building up from there. And then I thought, maybe I should start putting a name to this. And then it just kind of took off. My fiance was actually the one that kind of pushed me into, you should actually consider doing this as a proper thing.
Should we?
And I was originally. Yes, it's Maisie. Yeah, she'll hate that I've named her.
Oh, what a lovely name.
She was the one that kind of pushed me to do it. And originally I was like, no, it's not worth it. It's never going to happen. It's just like, forget it. I'll just keep making them in my shed, and I'll sell one every 6 months, and that's fine. But then she was more persistent, and I'm glad she was, because otherwise I wouldn't be here with you guys, would I? So
no.
It turned into something I could have never imagined it was going to.
I always get happy when I have to say this, but nobody, at no point in time have we ever interviewed anybody that has a successful pedal company that says, yeah, I set out to make a successful pedal company. I can't do this. I don't know what I'm doing. This is never going to work. I'm just going to make this one.
I fell into it.
It was a total accident. I love that. That's That's great. I'm excited that
the man knows what he wants. That's great.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess from I'm kind of lucky in the sense that because I don't rely on Zander as my only source of income, I'm not necessarily having to. It allows me to do.
Castle.
I wish I do need one of them, like an old Scottish castle. Yeah, I'd love one of them. Cool. Yeah.
What do you do in your personal life?
I'm a graphic designer as kind of my real job, if you like, in brackets.
You're in good company.
Cool.
But yeah, I guess it allows me to do what I want and sell things that I want rather than just make things that I think are going to sell. It just allows me that kind of creative space, because I'm not worrying about I have to sell this many pedals each month.
Right.
To make it work. It's kind of like I can release things that I'm happy with, and then if they sell, they sell.
Yeah, it's a lot more fun when you don't have numbers to meet and you're not under pressure. And
yeah.
I remember those days.
So, how did you actually fall into guitar stuff in general?
Well, I wasn't just playing guitar.
Yeah, what turned you on to guitar?
Well, I don't remember specifically. I mean, I was probably 13 when I got my first guitar. was bought for me. I'm still never going to forgive my dad for buying me a left-handed, because I'm left-handed, and I think I wrote with my left hand.
Right.
And I think in his mind that was like, oh well, he needs to have a left-handed guitar, and it's been both a blessing and a curse, because obviously it's hard to then to find anything that isn't just a black Strat or a Sunburst Telly or anything like that. But I guess picking up a guitar for the first time, it would have felt equally unnatural whichever way I'd have held it for the first time. But then to a certain extent, I think that's what then got me into. I used to build my own guitars out of parts, and I'd buy left-handed bodies and I'd spray them, and I'd stick right-handed necks on them, and then that got me into learning how to wire up a pickup to a volume pot, and I guess that it all kind of snowballed into then getting me interested in pedals. So in some ways being left-handed, I guess, has kind of made me try to do things myself a little bit more than just buy things off the shelf.
Nice.
So you started playing, and then you got into, I'm assuming you started getting into some bands and stuff, or?
Well, yeah, I mean, I played like just when like I said, from probably 13 through 19, I played kind of sporadically, and I'd probably put it down for 6 months and never touch it again. And then when I was 20, I was in a band for a little while, but didn't really go anywhere. It was just kind of just kids mucking around, and they were the other guys in the band were all a couple of years younger than me as well. So it was kind of like it was just starting to take off, and I was done with my education, and I was working full time, and they were like, oh, okay, yeah, we're off to uni now, bye. I was like, oh, okay, great, all right. So that's that dead, right? Okay, brilliant. But yeah, no. So in terms of like playing live and that, I've only been in one band, and I think we only played a handful of gigs. It's something that I kind of fascinate about being in, but then the practicalities of actually doing it whilst working full time and then trying to do the pedal stuff, it's like there literally aren't enough hours in the day.
Yeah. Well, I think that just goes to show that even if you're just a living room guitar player or a bedroom guitar player, like that's cool. Like do whatever you do that makes you happy. You don't have to. I think a lot of people feel like they are almost either obliged to get in some kind of a band, or feel like they don't have. I talk to a lot of guitar players and like, well, I mean, I'm not in a band or anything. And I'm like, that's why but you don't have to apologize for that. It's like just do what you do. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, it's like if you play golf, you don't have to become a golfer. It's like you could just play golf for fun. It's just a thing that you do. It's like I know there's guys that say, I shouldn't have this amp because it's expensive and I only play at home, so I would have won it. It was like, but if you like it and it's the sound that inspires you to play, then why not?
Yeah.
Who cares?
Absolutely. What were you listening to early on that kind of got you into the guitar music? I think that might have an impact on what we're going to talk about your pedals.
Yeah, I think, well, the first band I remember buying the album and listening to all the way through was, it wasn't actually, it was a compilation album, because when I was probably 12 or 13, it was around the time that American Idiot came out, the Green Day album.
Yep.
Yeah, I was probably 12, 13. When was that? 2004? Yeah, ish. Yeah, something like that. And she bought me the International Super Hits album by mistake, thinking that she bought me American Idiot. So it was a wrong Christmas present that she bought me. And I just remember putting that album on and just being obsessed with like the 90s Green Day, just simple power chords, kind of punk-ish sound. And that for me, being just going into my teens and just being like really moody and really angry and just the world's not fair and that kind of thing, like that kind of attitude. That for me was probably that's the first album I remember listening to from start to finish and multiple times, and just thinking, I need to play a guitar, because Strat, that old blue Strat that he has that's beaten up. That was like the first guitar that I became absolutely obsessed with because I just thought it looked so cool.
Yeah. So yeah, Rebel, you're going like, yeah. So now you got pedals and you got noise, and the world is coming to life for you. So
yes, yeah.
So how do you go from I'm just going to make this feedback looper to Zander Circuitry as we know it? Because I tell you what, man, this is about as a complete, well thought out brand and product line that I've ever seen. And I'm serious here because like I do brand stuff for big giant companies in my actual real life, and most of them don't even get it as well as you're getting it. And I suspected maybe that there was some sort of background, because most people that are doing this on a side project can't afford to do big proper branding. And when I opened up this box, I was like, so I got hit. I'm a multifaceted, so I'm like, yes, pedals. And I'm like, yes, podcast stuff. Yes, look at this branding. This is awesome. Man, you knocked it out of the park with that.
Thank you.
Really, really well done. So where's that jump happen? How does that all come about?
I'd like to say it was really well thought out and everything was completely perfectly planned, but it was definitely not. It was definitely not that. I think that it didn't come without its many mistakes. And it really was just the case of like, it went from a feedback looper to a single knob fuzz that had about 5 parts in it to now let's make a big muff, and now let's look at what makes the big muff do what it does, and what happens if I change this resistor to that or that capacitor to that. That changes the mid-range. Right, okay, cool, I know how that works now. And then moving on from fuzz, it was like, okay, so how does a delay work? What makes the delay do what it does? What makes it self-oscillate? How do you change the tone of it? And it really just was kind of really bit by bit kind of, in the way of kind of, I guess, technical knowledge, I'm very much, I'd rather try something 100 times and get it right on the 100th time than read a textbook. It's very much trial and error, kind of hacking my way through it to make it do what I want it to do. But that for me is half the fun. I like kind of sitting down and having a really messy prototype with, I've got a million knobs that I'm attaching to things and twisting and changing and turning things just until I can get it to sound like what I wanted it to be.
Do you ever find yourself, working on an experiment or, something that you've thought about doing, and then you're actually doing it, and then you look up and it's like 3 a.m. and you gotta go to work the next day?
I've had many angry openings to the workshop, and it's just Maisie standing there with a scowl on saying it's 3 a.m. and you're still making a load of random noise downstairs in our terraced house where we've got a newborn baby on the other side. It's like, you need to stop. You need to stop. No. Sorry, not us next door. Sorry.
Congratulations, you guys. I'm going to make noise right now. Okay.
But that's happened many a time. It's far too easy to become lost when you've got an idea and become obsessed with it until you can get it to do what you want it to do. Yeah.
And when you finish it, though, it's like, man, that was worth it. I mean, to me,
definitely.
Yeah. It's pedals are odd that way, especially if it also depends on where you're doing it in your house. Because like I work on that stuff deep down in my basement, and you just you get lost because there's no sense of what time of day it is.
Right.
But also you get lost because the minutia of everything is a very zen kind of experience.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah, and like when I first started, it was before I moved house and converted one of the rooms downstairs into kind of my workshop. It was I worked in just a shed at the end of the garden with no heating, one light bulb, and it would be like throughout. That was when it became very apparent what kind of time of day it was, when the inside of the glass was freezing in the middle of winter, because it was that kind of horrible, like. Yeah, so it's become a lot easier to stay up till 3 a.m. now, being in a nice kind of warm house. But yeah,
man. So that gets us to how you're approaching these things. You've made very, very specific choices in doing that. So you seem to be coming to the pedals with some sense of a game plan. It sounds like.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, it went through a couple of revisions of things, and there were really, you can kind of tell from the company, it's very much an ongoing project of like me learning new things and just wanting to change things up. So they're kind of starting off as like, oh, this is this pedal. This is if you like, in brackets, this is a clone of this pedal. And then it's kind of like, oh, I don't want to make clones anymore, because you learn the building blocks of the circuits, and it's like, oh, here's a new thing that's completely different. Yeah. Because it's just very much an ongoing project. But yeah, now I think I've finally settled into knowing what I want the pedals to do, and there's having a format and a way of laying them out that's consistent across all of them.
We got a box with a couple pedals, as I mentioned before, and let's just talk about these real quick. I think that'll give everybody a little sense of where you're coming from your pedal stylistics.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's an appropriate word, but we're going to use that anyways. So number one was the American Geek. Why don't you tell us about that?
Yeah, so the American Geek, being a Pumpkins fan, you probably got the reference to the Geek USA song. Siamese Dream is one of my favorite albums. But yeah, so it was basically, how can I get all of the sounds of all of the different big muffs from throughout the many years that the pedal's been around? Like, how can I get as close to having all of them in one box as possible? And really, the main thing over the people love to pledge their allegiance to the triangle or the ram's head or whatever one it is, and really it comes down to very, very small differences that mainly relate to a couple of components that are in the tone control. So it was kind of like, okay, let's look at what's in the tone control. Okay, cool, there's 2 resistors and 2 capacitors, right? Well, let's just make them all variable, and then you can dial in any combination of mid-range and bass and treble as you like. So it basically, there's 4 filter controls that replace the standard tone control. There's a max gain secondary foot switch that bypasses the gain control completely, because that's obviously quite a common thing to do on a big muff style fuzz, is just to completely crank the gain wide open. And then the kind of one of the biggest changes that isn't necessarily to do with the different variations that have been released, but more just because it's a fairly easy thing to do, to add in, that changes the sound of it drastically, is the 6-way rotary clipping diode selection switch.
So cool. Such a great idea.
Yeah, so it basically just gives you 6 completely different sounds with just one turn of a switch.
It literally is 6 different pedals in a box. I mean,
yeah, totally. I think that was my favorite one of the bunch.
Yeah,
nice.
And I love the idea that, again, being a Pumpkins fan, any sound that you can pretty much imagine associated with that band, from a fuzz or full gain style sound, pretty much have it in this box, man.
And the thing is, the weird thing is, it's like it's a transistor based pedal, this one, and the one that he used in the recording is quite famously known for being the IC one. But there was just something about just taking really high gain. That was the other one of the other main differences, is that I just use really high gain transistors, and it just seems to give it just gets so much closer to that sound of the old IC one than most transistor based fuzzes do. It's just I just love how kind of over the top and ridiculous it is.
And I think a lot of times when you see a rotary on something, especially if it's a like a clipping rotary or a transistor rotary, you can kind of think, well, these are probably gonna be so minimal that it's probably, I'm just gonna use 1 or 6, or something like that.
Yeah.
No. Each one of these have a very distinct. You can hear it if your settings are all. If you just noon everything and switch between those, you can hear the differences. So then within that, you have full range of dialing those in at very different degrees across the board. I loved this pedal. It was really great.
Oh, cool. Yeah. So I mean, across that I used that rotary on 3 different pedals actually. But you basically got germanium diodes, silicon diodes, red LEDs. You've got transistors, you've got MOSFET, and then you've got number 6 is it takes the diodes out completely, which is kind of lower gain, but a hell of a lot more output because it's obviously not clipping the signal anymore. So that'll be sort of a very, very loud setting if you're not careful.
I wasn't careful with that. And I ran right into that like a brick wall. Hey, Alex, when you're talking about that rotary dial, you just listed off several different things. Can you kind of explain what each of those do? I think from a sonic perspective, not necessarily a pedal builder's perspective, but for those of us who need to know what those are and don't know what a red LED is.
Yeah, so you've basically got your. I'll set it up a little bit. So you've basically got your signal coming through, and then you've got clipping diodes basically work that they basically the way most drive pedals use clipping diodes is they basically just connect your part of your signal to basically they shunt some of the signal to ground. So the 6 different options you've got. So you've basically got germanium is a kind of low output, kind of fuzzy sound. It's a little bit looser and a little bit messy is not the right word, but it's kind of slightly out of control.
Loose was a great way to sum that up.
Yeah. It's kind of if you're not going for if you just want to rip open power chords, then it's absolutely great for stuff like that. Yeah. Silicon, it doesn't clip the signal as much, so it's a lot tighter and a little bit more. I hate using these words, descriptor words, but it's a lot more brittle sounding. No,
that's what we need. You're doing great.
And a bit more kind of bit more mid-range. Red LEDs are literally red LEDs that you would see for like what come on when you press the foot switch. So they are obviously, if people don't know, LEDs are light emitting diodes, so you can use them in the same way you use any other diode when you're talking about clipping. That again is it's less compressed. It's a very open sound. It's very open sound, but they clip quite harshly. So it's a very kind of, it's almost as if you had a fuzz but turned the gated kind of thing. Like if you turn the gain control on a fuzz all the way down, so you've kind of got a really kind of strong and harsh attack, but it's not really distorted. Transistors are again literally transistors that would normally be used for other applications within a circuit, but people will know that the majority of transistors have 3 legs and you can tie 2 of them together, so you end up using it like a diode.
Okay. I didn't know that.
Yes, you basically tie 2 of the legs together and that becomes 1 leg, and then you use the other leg as the other side of the diode. And they work really well. The transistors are kind of more similar to the germanium sound, very kind of lower output, very distorted. But there is just a slight difference between kind of with the germanium, it will let some of the low end through without really distorting that much, whereas with the transistors, it will distort the entire signal. MOSFETs are very similar to transistors. They just have a slightly brighter sound. Though those switching between transistor and MOSFET, there isn't an enormous difference. You normally
like
hear
to
it.
just say I'm playing through a MOSFET.
Yeah, exactly. It's a cool word to say,
Yeah.
but you hear more of a difference at louder volume levels. If you're playing at bedroom levels, there isn't an enormous difference. And then removing them completely from the circuit, the signal just basically goes straight through. So whatever amount of compression was happening before it hit those clipping diodes is basically just going straight through, and it's usually a lot louder and a lot less compression. So you've got lower gain but higher output.
Thank you. I really appreciate that explanation. That these pedals are really well priced. I'm just letting you know, if you're considering a pedal that has a gob of options, this is a very, very good place to start. So,
Gee, a really nice product at a very fair price. That is a great concept. That's what I try to do as well. So I'm right there with you.
how did you just do a backside sideways? You backed the truck in.
Hey, what about me too?
You like that?
Hey, speaking of great things, let me tell you about my great thing.
Well, it makes perfect sense to me. It's
Yes.
and it
If he opens up
good
his coat, he's
competition.
got a whole bunch of watches hanging there, I guess. Okay, so let's move forward. The next one that we got was the Avalanche.
That was actually one of the first pedals I released under Zander that kind of came from one that I made before. It's basically two overdrive / boost pedals and a fuzz in one enclosure. So you've got three separate effects running in series, and the only potentiometer for each effect is a volume control. And then you've got 4 toggles, 2 for the first effect and then 1 for the second and third, that just help you dial it into your setup. So if you're running into a really trebly amp or an amp that's got a load of bass, you can cut or boost it with the toggle and stuff like that.
What I found super helpful is switching between, I went between my Tele and my Hagstrom Viking, which obviously sound very, very different.
Yes,
so
yeah.
That helped greatly to mediate those two sounds. And for those who aren't great at math like me, that was you gave us a lot of good math. It was helpful. When you look at this pedal, it's honestly a little bit daunting because there's not too many pedals with 3-foot switches on it and 4 toggles. So
and all the toggles are 3-way.
yeah, 4 3-way toggles, 3 foot switches, and 3 knobs, and a partridge in a pear tree. So essentially, this is. Is it fair to say that this is it's a sound box? I know that it's all sound boxes. These are pedals, Tommy. What I mean is this is a sound coloring box.
Yeah, well, the idea with this one was to be like if you've only got a pedal train nano, or you do a lot of fly gigs and you just need something that's going to cover near enough everything you could need in the kind of traditional rock kind of setting.
If you've got a mono guitar bag and you're on the tube, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, with the tube. Yeah, that's good. Yeah. So they were the first and second effects are like 2 single transistor, I guess you could say, boost circuits, and they've got clipping options for each, and the first effect also has a bright cut switch which lets you darken it down. So if you're using like a Tele into a twin, obviously it's going to be crazy bright, so it just helps you dial it back a little bit. But the idea with them is that because they're only single stage, they clean up really well with your volume control on your guitar, because with something like, for example, like with a Big Muff where you've got multiple gain stages and they've all got clipping diodes. That's why those kind of effects don't really clean up that well with your guitar, because it's so compressed and it's so distorted that it doesn't really matter. Whereas with these effects, it's quite easy to just dial, which is why I didn't put gain controls on them, because it's so easy just to do it on the fly, just on your guitar. It's
so we failed to name the actual name of this, which is the harmonic clipping trifecta, which that's a great thing to name this, because who doesn't like something having to do with harmonics, right? Clipping, that's going to be fun because you're going to really get to play with your sound. And it's a trifecta, which is better than a dufecta. Or a single. So you got all the good words in there.
It's the years of marketing spiel.
Yeah, I like it. That was a really fun pedal to play with because for me, at least, I wasn't sure what to expect. I knew with the American Geek I was going to get just a huge palette of different fuzzes and gains. This one I was like, I really don't know what this is going to do. And so it was a lot of fun playing around with this one in particular. It isn't the big movements you're going to make on the pedal. It's the little ones. It's the little combinations of these 3-way switches and just small adjustments. And when you hit that and when you nail it, it's like, ooh. Oh man, I love this sound. And then you have to take a picture of it so you don't mess it up.
It's kind of like, if we did subtlety, that would be the one that it would be the subtle one out of the bunch, if you like.
Yes. You hit us in the head with subtlety like a brick.
Nice. There's no other better way.
Yeah. Let's move forward to the cranium.
Yeah. So the cranium is a similar. It's a similar idea that I use with the American Geek, but it's using the Rat as a base to go from. So it's, again, there have been however many versions that they've released over the years, and even
all of them.
But yeah, really? Because really what it all comes down to with across the Rat, the Rat 2, the Brat, the You Dirty Rat. There's basically the only difference really between them is the clipping diodes that they use.
It sounds way more maniacal when you say You Dirty Rat.
Well, because of my British accent. Like a Bond villain.
Yeah, like Lock, Stock. All right. Bullet Tooth Alex, that's what they call you.
Oh,
right?
Oh God. Is that? I want to quote from that film so badly, but there's not one clean quote from that film that you can bring up.
Okay. Here we go. Cranium. So I love a good Rat pedal. So this one, you've got, again, this rotary control. People, you honestly have a full line of different Rat pedals in this box. So tell us a little bit more about this.
So yeah, I mean it's basically the same clipping options that were in the American Geek. So you've got the germanium, silicon, red LED, transistor, MOSFET, and none.
So yeah, if you like a Rat pedal, or if you don't, if you just like just a straight up, give me some dirt. I want a dirt box. This handles it very adequately. And you got cool graphics on all of it. So there you go.
Very much.
Then you have this Sono, which has a awesome octopus thing on it.
Yeah, so that kind of the only real link between the graphic and the pedal is the fact that an octopus would have 8 legs and there's 8 knobs on the pedal. That's really the only link between them.
That's a big leap there, but we'll just thank you for explaining it. And octopuses are cool. You can also just go with that. That's fine.
So I kind of thought I better not leave bass players out, better not alienate them completely. So I thought, but I'm really not much of a bass player. I've dabbled in it in the sense of I can play guitar, so I could probably just play one with 4 strings and it'll be fine. But I'm not a bass player. But it was
All
kind of
the
just,
bass players
again,
just closed their eyes and took 3 deep breaths. And they're like, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
but yeah, it was kind of just taking kind of 2 effects that I like on guitar a lot, and just tweaking the sound to make it work for bass. So you've basically got
It's a bass fuzz and a preamp, right?
Yes, yeah. So it's and by preamp it's kind of it's meant to imply kind of a light to medium gain kind of cranked amp, bass amp kind of sound. So yeah, you've got a kind of vintage style dirty boost / light overdrive pedal, and then you've got a high gain Velcro style modern fuzz in one pedal, and they're both independently foot switchable, and they've both got their own clean blend controls, which is obviously super important for bass players.
Right. I put this one in front of the bass player in my band, and it was hard to pry away from him. This is a very complete unit. Like, I mean, if other people are telling the bass player to get some different sounds with their bass, like those are the ones you typically really want, especially in a straight ahead, like sort of rock setting.
Yeah, and with this, the preamp circuit in the Sono is actually very similar to one of the circuits in the Avalanche. It's just a single stage transistor boost with clipping diodes, but we've tweaked the values for just to make it work for bass players. So even if you'll notice if you turn the clean blend all the way down, so you're just running through the overdrive circuit, it doesn't really distort the low end as much, just because when you distort a bass, like the lowest frequencies of a bass, it just tends to get really messy and really horrible. Right. So it was kind of like, how can we just clip the top part of like the top end of the signal, just so you kind of get that distorted sound, but it just doesn't become complete mush.
Yes, very, very smart thinking there. And it's an octopus.
Who doesn't like an octopus? Here
we go. I'm going to go back to your main page here. Just really quick, your full line. You also, we're not going to go deep into these other ones, but you have the, I'm going to say it wrong, the cafetiere. Yeah.
It's like I think you guys call it a French press.
Oh yeah, for coffee.
Yeah, for coffee. Yeah,
sure.
So what does that one do for us? You don't have not in detail. Just like what's the pedal like? Just overall.
It's based on the harmonic percolator. So hopefully you get the link with cafetiere percolator.
I gotcha.
Yeah. So yeah, a similar idea. It's got the same clipping diode switch. Starve control, right, like you would get on a fuzz, all that kind of stuff. But it's basically a really harsh sounding, fizzy, like if you could take a really horrible fuzz sound, it's basically that. All the horrible, fizzy, terrible guitar sounds you could get, and I'm not selling it very well, but that's the kind of idea of it. It's like for people who don't want a tone bender, people who don't want a fuzz face, people who want to make the guitar sound like it's going through an amp with broken speakers.
Right.
That's the kind of idea.
Do not buy this pedal, please. Do not buy this pedal.
Yeah. No, I gotcha. You also have the Exosphere.
The Exosphere is our reverb. It's kind of it's similar to it's kind of like a weird mix between like a spring and a hall and a kind of lo-fi echo-ish kind of pedal. And it's got expression controls on the back for controlling the decay time and the mix, and it's got an active volume control before and after the circuit, so you can distort the wet signal and stuff like that, and it's foot switchable, so you can switch between 2 different mix controls. So you get like one subtle verb and then one really big washy one.
Nice. That sounds like a really complete pedal, and it's got a cool name. You also have the Cyclone. The SI clone, Cyclone.
Yeah. So this was actually the first pedal that I made with a name, and that even before Zander started. So it basically started off as something similar to a fuzz factory, and then I just kind of kept changing parts and adding parts to the point where it isn't even remotely the same circuit anymore. It's kind of like if a circuit has 10 parts and then you change all 10 parts and add in other bits and pieces, it's like it's not even its own thing anymore. It was something that it started with and it's just morphed into something else. But it's just a crazy, if you're familiar with the Fuzz Factory, it's that kind of
the ZVEX Fuzz Factory.
Yeah. It's kind
one
of
of those pedals that in the wrong hands or in hands that aren't either patient or adept yet, like I think a person who's just getting into fuzz, getting the Fuzz Factory might break their brains.
Yeah, I mean, you go. Oh, this is broken. Please take it away from me. Yeah, but yeah, it's just a mad oscillating sub-octave generating fuzz with a load of extra tone controls and a second switch that bypasses the tone control, and just loads of different mad sound. Just
stay
ridiculous
away from
mad sounds.
Movements with this one, with the knobs. This is all about the subtleties. And then you have the tape deck. Yeah,
the tape deck's probably one of my most popular ones. It's a digital delay, but it's kind of modeling that old kind of broken or on the verge of breaking down tape echo.
Right, so you get a little bit warble-ish.
Yeah, so it basically takes a delay chip that's normally only rated for about 500 milliseconds and gives you almost 3,000 milliseconds out of it. So it's basically the further you turn the delay time, the more you're kind of in brackets breaking the chip.
Gotcha.
So by the end of it, by the time you get to the end of the time control, it's basically chucking out a load of random noise and just completely distorted, repeated like repeats.
Right.
And then you've got a foot switchable modulation for the delayed signal, which you can change with a trimmer on the inside to then give you weird chorus sounds, and it's got 2 expression inputs for delay time and feedback, so you can then control the time on the fly rather than it's not got tap tempo or anything like that, but you can change it with an expression pedal and just stuff like that.
I just thought of your next pedal, which should probably be called the garbage disposal. which basically makes it sound like if you had smashed a guitar into an amp and just leave it there on stage, but with
it doesn't matter.
2 expression pedals.
It doesn't matter what note you're playing; it sounds the same. Yeah.
Cool, man. So, you've got a pretty complete arsenal right there. I mean, and honestly, these are really fantastic, everybody. I mean, seriously, if you're not familiar with this brand, please check them out. Man, I really appreciate you going through all this stuff.
That's all right. No problem. No problem.
You got a great thing going on there. Jared?
Well, it's time for Would You Rather?
Jeez. All right. What do you got for us, Jared?
Well, this week's Would You Rather, guess what it's about, guys? It's about pedals. And we're going to switch over to Dr. No. Would you rather have a TVL Octavia, or would you rather have the TVL Troy Van Leeuwen Raven?
Right.
Please explain.
So a little bit about Dr. No real quick. He's known for his really over-the-top pedal design as far as things that are associated with it. So many of you have maybe seen the turd fuzz.
Over the top?
No. Or
I would say that would be below the bottom.
Yeah. When you're buying this pedal, when you're buying these pedals, you're really buying into the brand and everything else that's associated with it. It's a real piece of artwork. And they're crazy fun. He did 2 pedals for Troy Van Leeuwen of Queens of the Stone Age. really kind of focusing on the sound that they bring to the stage. So the Octavia is essentially kind of capturing this fuzz tone that Queens of Stone Age have produced, which can get like super, super nasally, a little sweet, this nice Queens of Stone Age type sound.
Yeah. Like Jimi
Hendrix. But the cool thing is it's got 2 skulls on it and I believe it's a heart. A little
it
heart.
Appears to be a
glass.
heart in like a pop lid.
Yeah, a pop lid. The other one, the Raven, is this one's got a giant gold bird skull on it, which looks super cool. Really outstanding pedals. You get it. It's really something special. I think that's kind of the point, is like these are very much collector's pedals. They're over the top for, a good reason. So this is essentially like it's a filter / booster. So you can boost your sound, but you can also get the squelch and squeal from the filter effects on here.
Yeah, I mean, think of it as like a wah pedal that has fixed points.
Yeah,
Mick Ronson. There's a lot of other players that have used that to effect.
Yep, I think that's pretty fair. Go, Tony.
I do like the fixed wah thing for some things, but I think in terms of usefulness, I think the Octavia pedal would probably be a better choice. Plus, it's cooler. I mean, the bird skull is cool, but
it's a gold bird skull, man.
Yeah, but then you got a heart in a glass case on the other one.
That's
with
true.
Two skull
with 2
knobs.
skulls, 2 black skulls.
Yes. So
I
actually I'd like them both.
Okay,
but if I have to pick one, I'll go with the Octavia.
Okay, Jared.
All right, this week I'm going to go with the Raven.
Okay, because the cool bird skull?
Exactly.
Awesome, I love it. Alex?
I think I'd have to go with the Raven as well. Only just because I love those kind of crazy, really pushed mid-range sounds that Queens of the Stone Age get, and I always struggle to use that myself because it brings out every little detail in how bad your playing is. But I think I'd like to give it another bash and then fail miserably at it. But I think for that reason, I think I'd pick the Raven.
Right. Just a quick note on that. I think one of the things that those of us who aren't in that band struggle with when we're like, oh man, I love that sound, I want to try to get something like that. We're typically playing all the notes of whatever song we're playing through that effect, and they're using it multiple pedals within one song for very different purposes with, sometimes 3 guitars. So it's like they're not just doing a wash of that effect over everything.
No, especially their more recent stuff is really kind of really intricate, like the rhythms and stuff is crazy. Extremely.
Todd, which one are you picking?
You know what? Because I do already have a lot of fuzzes, I think I am going to do the Raven, because there are a couple things at least in my live setup where I would like to punch in a couple filter effects, and I've actually been looking for something to do that well. So I think that would be a good one for me to play with. So lovely. All right, cool. There we go. That's all of them. Before we get too far down the road, I want to pull something out for Zander here. What?
Careful.
What? Oh, yeah. But yeah. Sorry. Excuse me while I whip this out. I think you've got a little promo deal for all the Guitar Knobs listeners. Is that correct?
We do. We do indeed. We're going to put a promo code up on the website for Knobs15, which will give you 15% off at the checkout.
Perfect.
Nice.
KNOBS 15, the letters 15. So that's KNOBS 15. That's KNOBS 15 on the Zander Circuitry website, and you're going to get 15% off of your order. That's flipping awesome. I love that. And so how long are you going to let that go for?
We'll run it for a fortnight or so. Yeah, a couple of weeks, yeah.
Okay. So those of us who don't know what a fortnight is, that's
Approximately 14 days.
14 days. Sorry, yeah. Just sorry. Do you guys not use Fortnite out there?
Not since the Civil War,
I
anyway.
hear it in movies.
That's okay. So yeah, we'll run that about 2 weeks from the release of this episode. Okay, so as soon as you hear this, that will be the release, and then you'll have about 2 weeks to act on that. So get on that deal real quick. Yeah, and let us know if you do get one with this code. Tell us. Post it on the website. Post it not on the website, on the Facebook group. Love to hear what you think about them. Tony.
Yes, we have some very, very special people to thank right now. We have a group. If you go to patreon.com/the Guitar Knobs, you can find out various levels that you can participate as a sponsorship. And one of the best sponsorships, the bestest in the world, is the executive producer level.
Yep. In which you're going to get a t-shirt. You get executive producer qualifications, privileges.
You get the key to the men's room.
And you get the barefoot buttons knob and a sticker pack.
And some picks, too.
That's $10.
There's
$10
one more
a month.
thing.
Come
There's
on.
one more thing, though.
What else do they get, Jared?
They get to have their name read on the
That's
thing.
right. Okay, hit us.
So without
Give us
further
the list.
ado, and here are the people that get their name read on the thing. Tom Barazin, Martin Cliff, David Wolfson, Matt Brammer, Carlos Mancha, Pete Marshall, Derek Fitzer, Robin Smith, John Daly, Oliver Gonzalez, Sean S., Chris Kearney, John Anglin, Robert Marfleet, Alex Leggett, Darren Gregory, Gary Goodman, and Zach J. Wright.
That's right. You guys, we cannot thank you enough for your support at whatever level. There are many others that are at different levels. It means the world to us. It really, really has an impact on what we do. It is so helpful, and we appreciate it deeply.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah. So, Tony, where can people find your stuff?
My stuff.
Yeah.
I was going to say patreon.com/the Guitar Knobs.
Oh,
but
yeah. Go to that for the Patreon.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Do that for the Patreon.
Okay.
But for my personal stuff, you can go to pickguardian.com.
Okay.
Socials.
Okay.
Yes.
Jared.
At pickguardian and the number one.
All right. If you need some pickups rewound, or you're just looking for something new, find me at BrandonWoundPickups.com. My email is on the website, jared@BrandonWoundPickups.com. I'm also on the social medias.
Yes. All right. And
Todd, where can they find you?
well, I want to give away our friend Alex over here. Alex, where can people find all of your stuff?
People can find all of our pedals at zandercircuitry.co.uk. You can email me at pedals@zandercircuitry.co.uk, and we're on all the Facebooks and the Twitters and the Instagrams and all that stuff.
Okay, excellent. And man, awesome t-shirts. People, you want a cool looking t-shirt aside from the Guitar Knobs t-shirt? These guys make a really good one. I'm just saying. I'm wearing the heck out of that thing.
And on that,
yeah,
there might actually be some new stuff with some new designs coming fairly soon.
Oh, fantastic! Be on the lookout for that. Post that on our Facebook group, will you?
Yeah, I hope that they should arrive in the next few days. So I'll be sure to keep you updated.
Quick.
Excellent. Yeah. Okay, and then please shoot me a message at Todd@theguitarknobs.com or on our Facebook group. I would greatly appreciate it. It's great hearing from you guys. I'm thankful for all of the commentary we currently get. We've got great active members, and you're so appreciated. So until next time, everybody, subscribe!
Yeah.
Well, that's it for these knobs. Please visit our Patreon page at patreon.com/The Guitar Knobs. Visit our website at theguitarknobs.com for all of our past episodes, 4 on the Floor blog, and other good stuff. You can connect with us on social too at our Facebook page and share your gear and stories on our Facebook group. Also, be sure to check out our Instagram at Guitar Knobs. Catch you next time.